Hello, everybody. It's Stephen and Walter here for another episode of So Chatty. It is So Chatty episode number 183. That's a lot. Considering there's only 52 weeks in a year. That's over 2 years.
Exactly.
Like 2.5 years we've been doing So Chatty. Wow.
Time flies when you're not having fun.
I know. Well, Russ of Quilt Meets World pointed out to me that the other day it was 6 years ago that I started the Idiot Quilter. It was 12.5 years ago that I started my whole YouTube channel. So back when I was a crafter. But enough going down memory lane. Let's take a look at what I've been up to. And yes, I know I've been working on the Barn Star sampler for 2 years. When I first got the book was 2 years ago. I'm getting there. These are block sets 14 and 15, and actually after I finished taking this picture, I finished block set 16 as well. 4 more sets of blocks to go. Then we can start putting the whole sucker together. And I'm hoping it looks like something when it's done. Well, it'll look like something, but we'll see what it is after all this time and effort that I've been putting into this. But yeah. But you've heard me talk about it every week, and you're going to probably hear me talking about it for a little bit longer as well. The other thing I did as a palette cleanser is the Halloween gnome wall hanging. You know that I've been doing these gnome wall hangings, one for every special occasion during the calendar year. Yes, it isn't Halloween yet, but I had it, and I wanted to do it, and I think he turned out pretty cute. What do you think?
Yeah, actually it is.
It is cute. It's over there on the doors. No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's where it is now. So, have to see what next comes up. I mean, I've got an Easter one. I've got a St. Patty's Day one. I've got Halloween. I've got... What else do I have up here? St. Patty's Day. Oh, Valentine's Day. I said Easter. Don't have one for Canada Day. I know they have, there's probably one for Independence Day because these are all American companies.
Can't you take one of the other designs and add Canada Day fabric to it?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I'll find that. But yeah, it would be nice if some of these companies, we have embroidery companies here in Canada. It would be nice if some of them would create one for Canada Day. In fact, I got a maple leaf, a Canadian maple leaf one, from an Australian site. Not even one from our own country. Come on, if any of you are out there that have any affiliation with Canadian embroidery companies, you might drop a bug in their ear that we need these kind of things, especially right now with it. So, you know, because we're all being very patriotic in the whole bit. But anyways, that's what I've done. Now, Walter has been busy, but we're going to just tease you with it. He finished another shirt for
it's probably in record time too.
Yes, he did it in no time. Those of you that were on the pop-up sew day last Saturday know that Walter was at his in-person sew day that he goes to at times, and that's what he was working on. And we came home, you had it pretty much almost done except for the buttons, didn't you?
Yeah, and I did quite a bit of it on Sunday, and then I finished it on Monday.
You're just a little sweatshop. Right there. Anyways, it looks fantastic, but I am going to be premiering it this coming Sunday on Stephen and Walter Live. So you'll have to tune in then to see my latest, or Walter's latest creation on me. And I'll tell you this, it makes me look fantastic. But then everything does. So this shirt, by the way, if you're interested, this was my first and only shirt that I've ever made with Walter's help, and we did a whole video about that, you know, a couple of months ago. So if you're new here, you might want to see that, how this shirt was made from beginning to end, and I did it. Will I make another shirt? It wasn't difficult, but there's a lot of little things to remember.
I mean, considering there's only a let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pieces now. 10 pieces put together. They are pretty time consuming.
Well, it is a little bit time consuming, especially if you're never really have made one before, or you only did it once and it's been a while ago. And by the way, you still have the pattern for that.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, well,
yeah. Well,
I mean, you can
Well,
packet
you might
because,
as well hang on to it until I know where it will be. Well, well, you
well,
know
now
where it
I've
will be.
got it so that I've got, well, actually, I can't find my original pattern that I was
Yeah,
using for
see?
you. So, no, that's because I don't know what I did. I may have gotten rid of it because it was getting pretty used up, pretty used.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I have one now. Problem is I've started making ones that are slightly smaller for myself. So
Oh, really? Oh, oh, he's such a skinny mini. Yeah, on this diet thing he's been doing because he's pre-diabetic. Oh, had to rub that in, didn't you? Yeah, really.
so anyway, so I needed that size for, but you were missing pieces, so I had to print out some more pieces
I've
for it.
been told that before and had nothing to do with patterns. But, yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, so
Yeah, so.
yeah, so I mean, chances are I'll probably be making another shirt for you,
More
so
to,
I might as well keep it. So
yes, chances are. I think I'm up to about 15 of them now or whatever. I haven't counted them. But I love them all. You know that. They wash well.
you'd
Never
think
iron
I'd
them.
be faster at putting them together, but I'm not too speedy
Yeah,
with
but
it.
it's squirrel syndrome. Oh, look. Yeah, over there. Okay, so as I said, we will premiere that new shirt on Stephen and Walter Live on Sunday. And speaking of Stephen and Walter Live on Sunday, we were going to be on, tripping over my lips. We are going to be on next Sunday, 1 hour earlier than usual because it's Easter Sunday, and we have been invited to my sister's place for dinner. So, and she knows we do the live, but we want to get there a little bit earlier than because by
Hmm.
the time the live is over and we get to her place, it'll be well after 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
So we're going to be on at 3 instead of 4 at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, our time here in Ontario, for Stephen and Walter Live. So you might want to write that down. Those of you that are regulars on Stephen and Walter Live, you might show up late. I don't know because there's a lot going on, and it is Easter weekend, and so I'm sure people have plans, or many people have plans for that with family and whatnot. If by chance you're late or you don't catch it, or for whatever reason, it's always rebroadcasted. Anyways, you can watch it at your leisure. Okay, so other announcements. Sewing with Stephen is on Wednesdays as usual at 9 a.m. till about 4 p.m. in the afternoon, Eastern Time. All are welcome. Link is in the show notes. You know the drill. So that's Sewing with Stephen on Wednesdays, and the more the merrier. We were a little light on numbers this past Wednesday, but the weather's getting nicer and people are probably trying to get out and about and whatnot. So that's okay. It isn't quantity. Yes, it is. It's quantity. It's always no. It isn't quantity. It's quality, and we always have a good time. And we had a new person that joined us this week too, who's kind of new to the channel, and she said she would definitely be coming back. So we didn't scare her away. So we're not that scary. We're really not. Okay, so speaking of scary, the retreat. Okay, so registration opened on this past Monday, and I'll be very honest. I'm finding the registration's a little bit slow this time. And I'm wondering if it's because of the politics right now. Um, so I wanted to make something clear about what's happening with the retreat. There will be no politics of any sort. There will be no discussion of politics. Okay? It is a day that is designed for fun. We're not going to talk about controversial issues. We're not going to get into any of that kind of thing. And also, if you saw my vlog this week as well, where I talked a little bit about the strained relationship between our two countries, but that's between our countries. That's between the politicians. That's not between us as individuals. Americans and Canadians were just people. And one of the great unifiers in the crafting world is quilting.
And I mean, we have discussed politics
Yes,
because it affects us on the channel. However, there's certain events that we don't want to discuss politics
we
on.
don't want it. No, we want the tone of the retreat to be uplifting, fun, relaxing. just generally a good time. And so there will be no political discussion. This is a drama-free zone. And in fact, we don't have political discussions on Sewing with Stephen either, for the same reason. We're bombarded. We're bombarded by all of this. You can't go on to YouTube anymore without seeing hundreds of videos about every aspect of this whole thing right now. You can't turn on your television set and escape from it either. So here's an opportunity to escape that mayhem. It may be for only one day or for part of a day or whatever, but it's something. And I know, and I've heard some of the people who come to the Wednesday ones say how much they enjoy and look forward to the Wednesday sew days, because they come away refreshed and a little bit happier, because for at least a few hours their mind is not on what's going on in the world. And that's exactly what the retreat is all about. So if you were afraid to, or apprehensive about registering because you're afraid it was going to become a political thing, yes, I am a Canadian, and yes, a lot of the people on there will be Canadian as well, but a lot more actually will be Americans. So we're not going to get into any of this stuff. We're not enemies at this level, okay? None of us, American or Canadian, started this. This was all started in the world of politics, and we know how politics, what it does to us as a world. We're just pawns and all of that. So come to the retreat where you have control over what you want to do and enjoy the day. There's prizes, there's great guest speakers, there's a show and share. What is there not to like? And it's all free, absolutely free. But you do need to register to reserve your spot. And you just need to send me an email with your first and your last name. And if your email address that you wish to be contacted at, in terms of information that'll be coming out next week, more about the retreat, then write that into the body too. But if it's exactly the same as the email address you sent the request from, don't even have to worry about that. It means I already have that email. And also another reminder that those of you that have already registered, we do have a show and share. A few of you sent in a picture. You only need to send in, it's not a need, it's if you wish to be part of the show and share slideshow. Just send me one picture of a favorite creation. It can be a quilt, it can be a bag, it can be a garment, it could be a painting, it can be whatever you created that you love. And send it to us. You need not write anything about it. All I need is your first and last name. That's it. Don't waste any of your time writing me a blurb, because I'm not even going to use the blurbs. I'm just going to use the pictures to create a slideshow that we'll be able to enjoy. And it's always one of the highlights of the retreat, I have found in the past. People always ask me to play it again for them. So, yeah. So, if you're sitting on the fence whether or not to register for the retreat, don't miss out on the opportunity, because I guarantee you're going to have a good time. Okay, let's move on to today's main topic. FPP using ITH, or foundation paper piecing using in the hoop embroidery techniques. Now, if you don't have an embroidery machine, you might not be as thrilled about this as I am. If you already are a foundation paper piecer and love it, that is fine. But if you're a foundation paper piecer and you have an embroidery machine, well, you can have the best of both worlds, to a point. So we're going to talk about this today. We're going to show you where you can get these patterns and things. And we're going to have Walter demo. In fact, he's never done this.
I'm a virgin.
He's a virgin. Anyways, yes, Walter is going to do this under my tutelage. Do you know where my tutelage is located? Well, you're going to find out. No, because you're going to be under it. Under my direction here, he's going to do a simple, what's called a tulip block. And we'll talk more about it and what you can do with those blocks and how easy your life is made in doing foundation paper piecing. Now, foundation paper piecing, There are a lot of people that gravitate towards doing foundation paper piecing because those people are not confident in their patchworking ability. You know, they find their seams are a little crooked, or they're not getting an accurate quarter-inch seam allowance. So some with foundation paper piecing, you're always accurate with it. So that's one advantage to doing traditional foundation paper piecing. The other advantage to it is there are some blocks you just cannot do in traditional paper piecing, or in traditional patchwork piecing. Or if you're somebody who really doesn't like Y seams, and I'm one of those, in that you sometimes can turn to foundation paper piecing for those kind of blocks, and you can avoid having to do Y seams. So there are a lot of advantages to doing foundation paper piecing, but there are some disadvantages as well. One of them is a lot of fabric to cut up. Now, having said that, there is an advantage that oftentimes if you want to make scrappy blocks or whatever, you can get rid of a whole lot of scraps. The other disadvantage is the fact that it's on a form of paper, and after you get it all done, you have to tear all that paper out. Well, that problem is avoided by doing it in the hoop, and I'll show you how that is avoided when Walter does his thing. So, but before we get into this, let's talk about where you would get designs for all of this. And I'll show you some examples as well. So let me just get things up on my screen here for you. Okay, so there are lots of in the hoop quilting blocks, but they are not foundation paper piecing blocks. There's a difference. If you see this one I have up here that comes from OESD, and I've bought several of these. This is a quilt block, but it is all done as embroidery. So all of these pieces are just basically stitched out in a pattern, just like any other embroidery pattern. So technically, these are quilt blocks, but they're not patchwork blocks. And you can buy a whole variety of these, and they have their place. If you want to do a wall hanger or something like that, I don't know if you'd want to make a whole quilt using this method, because there's a lot of thread in this, and it would make a very stiff quilt. But a wall hanging
looks like be good for a pillow cover.
Yeah, and that's what people use them for a lot, is for making pillow covers and things like that. That's on OESD. This one is on OESD. Whoa, that was a loud noise. We'll just move out of that. This one is one that I bought some of the blocks from it. Now, this one is more or less in the hoop blocks. Here they are. These are not stitched out in embroidery style. What happens with these is you put your stabilizer in your hoop, you put it in the embroidery machine like you do for anything else, and then it'll stitch out lines that'll be a guide for the placement of your fabric, like you would with applique, in the hoop applique, and then it stitches them down. But you'll notice here it's missing any kind of stitching, fancy stitching around it, like there is no satin stitch or anything like that. And the idea here is this makes a half square triangle, this makes a flying goose, this makes a split quarter, log cabin, rail fence. But you'll notice something too about all of these. Do you need an embroidery machine to do these? No. Traditional patchwork, like really, the time it would take you to do this, it doesn't take a lot of time, but the time it would take you to do one half square triangle in the hoop, you could probably make 4 using the conventional method. So these are, I don't know, I think these are designed for people who are really not quilters, but want to make a quilt.
Or a pillow.
Or a pillow or something like that. Now, I bought a few of these just to try them out. They're not that expensive, to see how it would work. And they do work. But like I said, I can do most of this stuff. Like, do I really need to have a design in the hoop to do a small square? I don't think so. Really? And you notice all these are very, very simplistic.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's worth your effort to, unless you really have never done any quilting in your life at all and you're trying to create a piece that looks like it's been quilted. That's the only advantage I could see to doing this kind of thing. But for any of us who have done quilts, I don't think we need to waste our time and our effort on these. There's no real advantage to it. Now, they actually have, if you buy, and it's pricey, $41.42. If you buy the whole, all of the patterns on it, they show you how to create this sampler. But again, there isn't any blocks in here that I couldn't make from traditional patchwork. Now, if you do a search on Etsy, I want to put up a caution for you. I did a search, as you can see at the top of the screen, FPP in the hoop, and I came up with pages and pages on Etsy. But these are not all in the hoop because it just keyed in on the words. Like, for example, when I saw this one, first off, I got excited. I thought, ooh, I like that. That would be fun to do. And you see, that's a little bit more complex when it comes to like putting it together as a patchwork block. A lot of angles on here, and maybe some Y seams as well. But when I looked at it further, it is a traditional foundation paper piecing pattern. All you're getting with this is the pattern. It will not work as an embroidery file because it's not designed to be one. Many of these are like this. You know, log cabin. Now that's an in the hoop one. But again, a log cabin is not a difficult thing to do. This one says it's in the hoop. However, there's a problem. You see this one? It's got satin stitching. You got to beware of this. You don't want a pattern or a file that's going to do this, because this is going to be just like your traditional applique, in the hoop applique. So yeah, watch that. The way they word this, they're calling this foundation paper piecing. Well, they call it actually, they didn't say foundation here. It said in the hoop multicolor sawtooth star machine embroidery quilt block.
Yeah, but it came as a result of you putting in
Yes.
foundation paper piecing, so it doesn't necessarily, like with any search,
Yeah,
it doesn't necessarily key exactly on what you've put in.
yeah. But here's the problem. If you put in FPP or foundation
Paper piecing.
paper piecing, what you'll get is exactly that. If you put
Yeah.
in the hoop, you'll get that. By combining the two terms, I was hoping to get what I was looking for. And
Don't you have to do a search like FPP plus in the hoop or something like that?
well, I don't know. We can try that. But before we go and try that, right here, this one I did actually purchase. But there's a problem with this, and I'll talk about it in a minute. But that one is an actual in the hoop foundation paper piecing pattern. So what I'm saying about this and showing this all to you, you're going to see a lot of things that you really like, but they're not necessarily a foundation. They're not what we're looking for in the hoop. In fact, I have found that there isn't a lot out there. Or they're the ones like this one. I got excited when I saw this. I thought, oh, this is cool. Yeah, I'd love to do that. No, that is not FPP. Those are all created, like I showed you right at the beginning of this, sewn with like embroidery, an embroidery pattern. It's not an in the hoop foundation paper piecing one. So where do you find these? Well, before we go on with that, let's try Walter's suggestion. So if I go up here and I drop in a plus sign, see what comes up.
No, still the same.
No, same stuff.
See, the other thing is a lot of times these search engines key on all the different words as separate things. And so it just pulls up it because it's trying to sell you stuff.
Yeah.
It just keys on whatever you put in. It's that Amazon does the same thing. Like if you go to Amazon and put in Floriani thread, for instance, Amazon doesn't sell Floriani thread, but they will bring up all kinds of embroidery thread.
Now, what happens if I put it in quotation marks?
Could be.
Because that was in the old days. Remember? That used to be a Boolean search or whatever kind of thing that they used to call it back in the dark ages of internet searches.
There we go. Now let's take out the plus. Okay. Nope.
Nope. And so this is why you run into this problem. So it can get very frustrating. But I'm still going to show you what you can get. So after going through all of those, I bought a couple of blocks from Etsy. And just let me get my file back up here. Oops. Back here. Okay, this is one block I bought from Etsy. And they didn't give it a name. Now, this is what I was saying. If you were to do this in a traditional way, as patchwork, this is a fairly complex block. What we're talking about here is this right here, these points. You have to cut those pieces exactly right. You're probably going to need a template, or you're going to need a triangular ruler for it, or whatever. And then you got to stitch them in a certain way so you can avoid a Y seam. That's involved. But I did this one on, let's see if I can find it. I actually did this one to try it out. I bought the pattern. Let me go down here. Let me go back up here. Oh, don't want to show that. Okay. I guess I knocked it out, but I'll have to pull it back in. Give me just a sec. Okay, so here is what that block actually looks like.
Are you?
What?
Okay, there we go.
Oh, somebody direct. Who's the director? Did I make you co-director? No, I didn't.
Well, you wanted me on here.
Yeah, well, you're just the eye candy. Anyways, this is what it actually looks like when it was stitched out on the embroidery machine. I used different fabrics, of course, for this. And it did an okay job. The only thing was the instructions that came with it. If I had never done any in the hoop projects before, I would have been lost with this. Because the person who put this together, I don't think is actually someone who does a lot of in the hoop things. Because it just wasn't written very well. But as I said, it turned out okay. It doesn't thrill me. Maybe with a different color scheme. I think it's just the shape of it. The way. So I wasn't thrilled by that. So I moved on. So I found this one. Now, there you go. You've got numbers, right? Which you have in traditional foundation paper piecing. But this wasn't in the hoop design. And this is what it looks like. This is one block up here, one unit. And when you put the four units together, you get this windmill in the center. Yeah, that's okay. Again, I just used whatever fabrics laying around. But I didn't find that necessarily any easier than if I had done it as patchwork, any quicker, really, with this. So that didn't really completely throw me either. But the one we're going to show you today, and I've got to get out of all of this again, bear with me, because I want to take you to a website where actually I stumbled upon this website by accident, and this is how it got me going down this whole road. That's not it. There we go. Parker on the Porch is the name of the website, and this lady sells fabric. Doesn't sell a lot of stuff though. Her whole site really doesn't have a lot. Like, she shows fabric and things like that, but she doesn't have a lot of stuff. But she had this. It was pricey. $19 for this. That's Canadian price. It's the Tulip Quilt Block, and this is what it is. And this is done in the hoop. It comes in several different sizes, as you can see down here. And she shows making it into a pillow. Now we'll come back to this in a minute. But I put this one together and I liked it, and it is fast. Her instructions were fairly clear at what to do, and she even had a video tutorial that you could watch, which was very good too. So this one I was sort of impressed with. And if I show you, so this is what I created. I created a table topper using that one panel. So if you see here, up in this top part, this is the tulip block right here, just that. But 4 of them put together create this design. Take 4 of those designs, put them together, and you can create whatever you want with that, which is really nice. Now, I did embellish this a little bit by using a design that was that I had for quilting, and I quilted on top of it after I got the 4 units
That's embroidery,
together.
though.
That's embroidery, that part. But the rest of this, and this is what we're going to illustrate today, is foundation paper piecing, except done in the hoop with it. So you'll see what this all means when we get there. Now, I'm going to insert here a video, which is this whole process of making one of these little blocks in fast time. It takes 1.5 minutes. And there's no voiceover, there's just music. It'll give you a sense of what we're about to do and explain in more detail, or what Walter's going to do, and I will explain it in more detail then, for creating this. So I'm going to insert that little video in here right now. Okay, so we're sitting at the embroidery machine right now. Walter's sitting in front of it, and you can't see him, of course, because I have got, well, actually, you might be able to see him. Can you see you? No, you're not in the shot. Well, anyways, we won't worry about that. Let me go back here. So we're going to put together that tulip block. Now, that's me. Okay, fine. There's one in every crowd. Geez, never work with children or dogs or Walter. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do the tulip block, which we already showed you. Now, I've already hooped up some things. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is why this method is a little bit different, and it's not in the instructions. What was recommended for stabilizer for this particular piece was to use a tearaway. Just like you have paper in a traditional foundation paper piecing part, and one of the things I hate about doing that kind of thing is afterwards you got to tear out all those little bits of paper. The very first one I did use the tearaway because that's what she said in the instructions to use, and it was a pain in the butt. Now I got thinking, but wait, why not use no-show mesh? No-show mesh is what's hooped in this right now. And you probably, if you've watched us before, know that we use that a lot when it comes to anything that's like clothing or anything that's going to be machine washed or that kind of thing. You don't have to take it out of the piece when you're done. So there's no ripping of paper here. So that's going to save you a lot of time and frustration as well. So we have it hooped there. This particular pattern comes in about 4 different sizes. I'm using the second largest size, which they call it on the machine the 7 by 11 size, but it's not 7 by 11. I don't know where they come up with these measurements for their hoops. The hoop I'm using is a square hoop, and with the Janome 550E, it's the 20B hoop. So anyways, that doesn't matter. It's going to end up with the same result. The first thing it's going to do is lay down placement stitches, where everything's going to go. Now, originally I was going to do this in black, but because I'm using white fabrics, you don't want to use black thread because it may show through in certain parts. So a white thread is all you're going to need. But when this starts up, when Walter gets this going, it may be difficult on camera to see what it's really drawing out, but you've already seen that because you just saw the quickie video of this as well. So it's already threaded up. I got everything ready for Walter to go. So all he has to do at this stage is push the start button. So push the start button. You only need 1 layer of no-show mesh, and you don't need any batting. Now, if you wanted to, depending on what your purpose was for this piece, you could put a layer of batting underneath this, which would mean an extra step when you take it out. When you trim it up, you want to trim out the batting from the seams. I have chosen not to do that because for this demonstration, I don't feel that it's important to have batting in it, but that depends on what your final product is going to be. So it's stitching everything out here very nicely. I know, difficult probably for you to see this. Hidden behind that fold down a little bit. And in the instructions, she recommends pre-cutting fabric to certain lengths in that. So you don't have to do much trimming in the hoop. However, she does suggest that you trim around each piece after it's been sewn down. And I find that's a pain in the butt. Depending on the colors that you're using, you don't have to be that particular about it because they will get buried in the seam allowance. They won't, and if your fabric is dense enough in color, you won't see, there won't be shadows through the fabric, which again makes this fairly fast. The total time for this, according to this embroidery machine, says it's 4 minutes. Well, no, it's not taking into consideration you got to lay down some fabric. However, it's probably only going to take 6 minutes to do it, unless we screw up. So this is just about finished for the first thing. And it's just going to go over and complete that. And I want to show you what I've done just to organize the fabric here. So I'm just going to turn my camera so you can see this little design board. Oh, if I can get it in the shot, there you go. These are the pieces that I need for this. I've decided on my colors beforehand. I'm using white as my background, and I've labeled these pieces pretty much in the order that they're going to be used on here. Now, do you do this every time? Well, you might want to do this if you were going to do many of these blocks and have them all laid out. But you don't have to do it. And in fact, if you want to make this really scrappy, you grab a handful of scraps, and as long as the pieces are bigger than the outline that's here, that has been stitched down, then you're okay. Now, you may have to do, though, a little bit of trimming, which is going to eat into your time. With the way I've cut these pieces, there's only going to be a minimal amount of trimming that we're going to have to do. So right now, the first piece is, you can pull that up, is the center square. So you see that this is our center square mark right here. So you want to put this so it covers that whole piece. And the piece will be, the fabric is a little bit bigger. Yeah, that's good. put down your needle, drop your needle, and hit the start button. And this is our first piece. And just like traditional foundation paper piecing, the first piece is always laid right side up. And many times people use a little dab of glue to hold it down. So in a sense, think of the stitching that's going around here as the hold down stitch for, or the way they call it in the machine, the tack down stitch. Okay, so now it's going to move over to the next piece. Now, here's where things, just like in traditional piecing, you're going to take your fabric and you're going to take the right sides. This one's hard to find. The right
Yeah, that's the right side there.
Yeah, okay. So the right sides together, but there's going to be a, now this is something that I can tell this person is not, doesn't do a lot of designing in the hoop things, because normally in an in the hoop project, when they need to do some flipping of fabrics, they will have the machine do a placement line down here, a straight line, so you know exactly where to put your fabric. And then once your fabric's down, it will do that straight line again to tack it down. This doesn't do that. So all you do is use this last line as a guide. You can see this is where the needle's going to start. So you need to put that down, right sides together.
How far in?
But not like that. You're going to be flipping the fabric. That's why I didn't tell you that. So you need to put, yes, like this. Exactly. So, and this is easy to get mixed up on. Okay, just lay, that looks good. Now you do want to have pieces of fabric that are going to go out into the seam area. We're going to be trimming this later, and we'll show you that. But you want it to be larger than the edge of the seam. You want it by about ½ an inch is good. Quarter inch to ½ an inch is good. This will be fine because of the way the pieces have been cut. So drop your needle or your foot and hit start. So now we're going to want to flip that piece of fabric over that. So lift up your needle and move the fabric under the needle and pull it right across. Now you may want to pull your hoop out for this. I'm not doing that because we got a camera in the way here. But pull it there and then finger press it. Okay. And now, this is where a tool like this comes in very handy. This is a Hera marker actually, but I use it to hold the fabric down so your fingers aren't there. So go ahead and hit the start button. Put your needle down, yes. Put your foot down.
Put your foot down.
Yeah. It helps if you've pressed your fabric before you do this, and I did do that. And so now that's the tack down. That's holding that piece down. That's our second piece in the pattern. Now you may want to take a pair of scissors and just trim that thread that's hanging right there. Okay, where'd you put the thread?
Threw it on the ground.
Okay, this isn't your floor. This is the floor in my sewing room. You throw that stuff on your floor all the time, and then I'm vacuuming up all the time. There's a little bowl over there. You see?
Okay,
that's
fine.
where you can put scraps. Okay, we're going to go to the third piece, which happens to be a piece of background. Same thing, we need to find the right side of our fabric. Okay, now we have a line here. So you're going to put it over top of that line.
No, don't put it face down.
You're going to put it right side down. Yeah, that background fabric is hard to see the right in the background.
Okay.
And
right side down, right?
Right side down. Okay. So you're putting right sides together.
And I put it like that?
No, you don't.
I put it like that.
Yes. Yeah. Now,
see, I've never really done.
That's why I'm having you do it. Okay. And it's easy to get mixed up. Okay, so we know it's going to go across here, but how much have we got over here? You haven't left a lot there. Now, you don't have to worry about this side so much.
Okay.
You can pull it a little bit because this isn't actually going to stitch down here on that part. So just as long as we've got about ½ an inch over the seam line, we're good. Okay, you're good. Hit the button.
Oops.
Put the foot down.
Gotta put my foot down.
Put your foot down. Okay. So lift up your foot and fold the fabric back. And once you have the fabric, it is tricky under the needle. I always like to take something and just scoop that thread out of the way. And finger press it. Make sure you're keeping it all straight across there when you do that. As long as it's straight on the thread line, you're okay. Don't worry about what's happening up in the far side of it, because that doesn't matter. Okay, you may want to use your little thingy here just because I see it's, I mean, it doesn't have to be super tight. Okay, now you can hit the start button or put your foot down. And you can just let that go. Okay, now some people, like I said, if I had more room here, I would have actually taken the hoop off and I would have really pressed this down with the nail of my finger. But it's a little awkward in this setup we have here. Now, I have seen people use those little tiny mini irons that look like a wood burning kit, and they will slide a thin heat resistant pad underneath the hoop, or take the hoop out and put it on their wool mat and give it a little press with that. Basically, I don't think that's, unless your fabric is really, really springy, I don't think you need to do that. That's just a waste of time. Okay, so now we're going to go to the next piece. Next piece is this. You want right sides together. Now your line for this one, you want it to cover this line right here. I already did that.
Okay.
And you want it to come up higher. Go up there. And you see where your needle is right now?
Yeah.
That's right where the first stitch is going to be taken. So you can, yeah, as long as you've got enough left up here from that line, yeah, I'd pull it up a little further. Okay, that's good. You're always trying to leave at least half an inch of overhang. Okay, you can push your button. Oh, wait, yes, you can. Yeah, you got it the right way. Yep. Oh. For a minute, I thought we had it the wrong way. And basically, you're seeing this is the procedure through the whole thing. First time you do it, you're going to be a little slow. But if you're making multiples of these, it's going to be very fast. You might want to pull that there. Okay. And finger press it. And put your foot down.
My foot down.
Hit your start.
I start.
Yep. Now, this piece we're going to be handling in a slightly different way. And I'm just doing that but keep your fingers away. Okay, that's good. Okay. The next piece it wants to do is up there in this far corner. We have to cut this out. So we're going to use our applique scissors, and you may want to take the hoop out for this.
Well, what do I, this part?
You're going to want to cut, but not right up against the line. You want to leave a 1/4 inch, like freehand. It's a little easier to do this if you take the hoop off from the rack. There you go. Okay.
Does it matter that there's a little dog ear there?
I would cut it off. It probably actually isn't going to hurt anything because it's on the outside of the seam allowance or outside the seam. So, okay. So now we need a triangle piece. Right sides down, and the point of your triangle is going out here. You're covering that line there. So kind of center it. It can be rough. It doesn't have to be, as long as everything gets covered up and those pieces are bigger than whatever. In fact, what I would do is I'd pull it up a little bit more. I'd pull it up that way a bit more. Yeah. Okay. Actually, I would pull it up a little bit more because on angle pieces, you sometimes shortchange yourself. Okay, that's good. All right. Foot down. Start. Okay, let's pull that thread back. Okay, now you can fold it over.
Ooh, I see what you mean.
Oh, you are too late. Yes, this is what I told you. This is good. Well,
I was
first of
following
all,
your instructions.
yeah. Oh no, you weren't. Look how much you put over.
Yeah,
there.
well, no, well, that's because you told me to pull it up.
No, I wanted you to do that because I want to show this.
Yeah, bull.
Yeah, well, both, but we're not lost here. We just need our little seam ripper, and we'll just remove that little piece, and we'll do it again. So let's get in the camera shot here. So you see here the problem. Here's our seam line. Oh, look, it got covered that, but didn't cover that because look how much he's left there. And this is a problem when you're doing angles. You've got to make sure. So we'll just take this off. And usually they come off pretty easy. Just make sure you don't cut your fabric. Oops, almost cut my fabric. Oh, my scissors. Here, I just trim off these little hairs. Okay, so we're going to try this again. In fact, before you put it back under the hoop, it's easier to do it right here because you can see what you're going to do. So see, there's your line. You want to be about 1/4 of an inch over that line. And you want to pull it up enough that when this one, you can test this. Just hold it down and that should be fine. So now we're going to have to back up the machine. So foot is up, hit the arrow.
That's right.
Is that we're going? Okay. And then we'll put the hoop back in the machine. And we'll try this again. Now, normally I wouldn't even bother cutting this as a triangle. I would have cut it as a square, but this is what the instructions called for. They're trying to save you some fabric. Okay, you put your foot down.
Put my foot down.
And do it again with feeling.
Do it again.
Okay, so now you can put your foot up, fold it over. Finger press it. And now the tack down stitch will hold that whole thing down.
Okay.
Okay, foot down.
My foot down. Should have done it in a different color thread so people could see it more.
Yeah, but the reason I'm doing it in white is because those are going to get buried in the seam allowance, but if you don't sew it quite accurately, you're going to see it. Where's the white?
So who cares?
You're really being positive about this experience, aren't you? Okay, now this piece. Now this one I have found from trial and error. You're going to do the same thing. You're putting it right sides together. Bulk of it goes up above that seam line. Put your foot up. Okay, now take a look at your edge here. Line it up with the edge there. That means you'll have enough and you're okay. You don't have to worry
What about this edge here?
Oh, yes, you do. You have to, center that a bit. Okay, that's good. That piece I could have cut a little longer. but it'll work.
Okay.
Okay, foot down.
Put down.
Yeah. Now, before you stitch it, I'm looking here. Because it's going to have at least a half an inch, a quarter to half an inch below this line here, you may want to come up a little higher. Actually, you're probably okay. Yeah, I think you'll be okay. But just beware of that. Always beware of how much you want to leave in your seam allowances. You'll see why that's important in a moment when we...
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Get this camera so we can... Okay, now flip it. Pull it down, finger press it.
Is that enough steam? Yeah.
Yep, you're good.
Okay.
Okay, foot down, press the start. You just made it. In fact, that might be just a shade, but that's okay. It'll still work. Because even if it was too short on here, we're using no-show mesh. We would just leave the no-show mesh when we trim it. It'll be enough there, and because it's going to get buried in the seam allowance. But just beware of that when you do it. Ideally, you want to have at least a quarter to half an inch left or right. Okay, now you're going to have to trim this like you did the other corner piece, a quarter of an inch roughly. You might want it. It's easier if you take the hoop out, but okay, you want to cut that little point off. As I said, the first time you do this, it's a little awkward. After you've done it once or twice, it goes even faster. Okay, so last piece, triangle again. All right, you want to make sure it's all going in, and that'll probably work fine. And you put the hoop back into the connection.
Okay.
And now you hit foot down, start button. This is the last piece. Well, there will be a tack in, but okay, now fold your fabric over. By the way, if you're hearing little noises in the background, that's the 3D printer. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, but that's not a really good crease. Use your nail.
I don't have nails.
Oh, yes, you do. You just had them done. Okay. Foot down. Hit the start. Here we go. Okay, the machine is going to return to the center position. And then what we're going to do is we're going to show you how you trim this up for the block. So we're going to get set up for this and we'll come back. Okay, so the hoop is out of the machine and Walter's going to take this out of the hoop. So take it out of the hoop so we can trim it up. Just pop it. Okay, I'm going to give Walter the trimmer by George. You've seen us use this before. This is the special ruler by the Hoop Sisters, which has, it's a regular, looks like a regular ruler. Oops, put it in the shot. But we have this little lip that's right here. And this is meant for getting underneath your layers to trim away your stabilizer first. So all you do is, you've done this before, you put it underneath, right up against your stitching line. Make sure nothing's peeking out from under it except the stabilizer, and then you take your rotary cutter and trim that, and you go all the way around all four sides of your block. You're so delicate.
Yeah, well, I'm not used to doing this. I mean, you're a pro at doing this, so.
That's why I'm having you do it, to show people that
even an idiot can do it, right?
Yeah. You said it, I didn't, but I was thinking it. Okay, now that you've got almost got the stabilizer all removed from it, what you're going to do is use this sew line that goes all the way around. Just let me get this into the shot a little bit more. There's a sew line all the way around the perimeter of this. So you're going to take your trimmer, or you could use any ruler. I mean, the trimmers, this is a nice little tool to have if you do a lot of in the hoop stuff. Find the 1/4 inch line. I have a piece of masking tape on here because most of the time when I do in the hoop projects that need to be put together, they tell you to leave a 1/2 inch seam allowance. But in this one's case, we're only going to leave a 1/4 inch, just as in a traditional block, because it's going to be attached to other blocks. So you find your 1/4 inch line and you line it up along that outward, or that perimeter stitch line, and you're going to slice it. Now you don't have a lot there to slice, but you're still going to slice it. Doesn't hurt to have a little pressure.
Well, I'm used
Well,
to...
that rotary cutter might be a little dull.
Yeah. I think
You're pretty useless, aren't you?
Yeah, I
There,
am.
you cut
There.
it. Okay.
Okay.
Spin it and do it to the other three sides.
Spin it. Sit on it and spin it.
Make sure you get it on the 1/4 inch line. Yes. Two sides done.
Geez, it's really hard with that white line.
Well, yes, but as I said, the reason for that is so when we sew them together, just in case we're not accurate. But I mean, if you're pretty confident about your ability to sew a straight line, then you could use a darker thread, depending on what your background is. I'm using a white background, but you know. Okay, so we'll just move this stuff out of the way. Let's take a look at Walter's block. And there it is. There's the Tulip Block. And to make this into something, we need 3 more. Well, by the magic of television, look what happens to be here. More of the blocks. And so all Walter has to do now is sew these two together. Well, he doesn't have to sew those two together. I've already done it, just like you would if you were doing patchwork. So these two go together. Now, how do you line it up? It is really easy to line it up. All you do is just make sure it's a straight line. And what he's going to do is, I usually take a couple of clips.
Make me sew it too?
Yeah, I'm going to make you sew it too. I just take a couple of clips, clip this down, and you see you have this line right here of stitching, which I know is difficult to see because it's white on white. It's right in here. And all you do is just sew a thread's width inside that line. And then I won't make them sew it.
Okay, good.
Because you don't want to do that.
I don't want to do that.
But I'll show you here. I sewed mine, and you see,
Yeah.
you don't see that sewing line
Mhm.
that was put all the way around. And so when you get it all together, you have this nice little block. And that's what I showed you was in the table runner. So I made 4 of these to create that table runner. And at this point, you're just stitching them together as you would any normal piece of patchwork with it. And of course, hit it with the iron. Now, if you look at the back, it's going to look kind of the same, but you do see the no-show mesh here as well. You do not have to pull that out. If this was tearaway stabilizer, you would have to pull it out. And I did that on one of the first ones I did. That took longer to pull out the paper than it did to make the blocks for it. A lot more. And there were little pieces getting caught in the seams and everything like that. So I find with the no-show mesh, it gives us stability. It's washable. You don't have to worry about it. So that's how you do this kind of thing. I looked, as I said, for more patterns to do. And, well, you heard my results from that. Now, there's just a couple of other things that I want to talk about, but we're going to go back to the main computer for that. Okay, so that's doing foundation paper piecing in the hoop. When would you use that? Well,
Never.
You might not. Well, first of all, you don't have an embroidery machine. The point's moot. But I would use it for blocks that are very complicated. Simple blocks, there's no advantage to it in my opinion, because they're easy, they're fast. But if you've got something that has like Y seams in it, or it's got a lot of little pieces, then I might do this. Now, what I wish I did know was how to create these kind of things using the digitizing program that we have with this, but I don't know how to do that. I tried a couple of things and I didn't have any luck. If I really put my mind to it, maybe I could do it, but right now it's not worth my effort. But I thought you'd like to see just a little different approach to doing foundation paper piecing. For me, the advantage is this. If I could find enough designs that I really like to make something, because I don't like doing foundation paper piecing, then I would definitely do this instead with it, because I do like doing in the hoop kind of things.
Well, wouldn't you just need to produce the lines for the sew lines or whatever, or duplicate with what would be on the paper piece pattern?
Yeah. But what I tried to do was scan one in. I went into Electric Quilt and took one of their blocks and turned it into, because you can turn it into a paper piecing pattern. And I tried to scan it in and I didn't have much luck pulling it up in the embroidery program. Okay. I'd have to play more with it because I am not a digitizer. I've got artistic digitizer for the Janome products, but it's a very steep and lengthy learning curve. So yeah, I don't do that. But who knows? If I see a pattern one day that I really, really think it would be better to do it this way, then I might invest the time and the learning potential to figure that out. So I did want to show you though something here I found just today I'm kind of in my search for patterns, embroidery patterns for in the hoop FPP. And I found this called Perfectly Pieced Quilt Blocks in the Hoop. Well, there's a lot of blah blah on here. It goes on for days. They show you how they do it kind of through pictures. But the bottom line of this is not free. They want you to join a monthly subscription program, which kind of turned me off. But if I'll show you down here at the bottom of this, well, I thought it was at the bottom. Okay, that's not it. I thought they showed all their pieces, but I must be getting that mixed up with another one. But they show you like what you can do with these things. But the thing is, they don't have anything that you can download and try it out. You have to order this month's box and or subscribe to future collections here. So I gather you're going to get different ones for making these kind of blocks that they're showing little samples of, but it's a monthly subscription. And for me, that's not something I'm going to pay money for
No.
with it. But there is that kind of thing out there. And I guess it comes with these instructions and everything like that. I think it's about $19 a month American, which is a little pricey, I think.
There they look like they're showing they're putting it on no show mesh.
Yeah.
Or
Okay,
water soluble
well,
or
okay,
something.
this is a really great site. I went to their subscription site and I got a 404.
Mm.
Maybe they don't exist anymore because I
That's a
don't
possibility.
sign up for updates. So I don't know, but yeah, they're showing it on no show mesh, which is the better way to go. But anyways, I just thought I would show that to that there's these things out there, but they're not easy to find. Okay, so another thing that I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, and that goes back to the design we just did. She showed, if you take a look at this block, if you're a quilter, you're going to see something wrong with that block. There isn't a quarter seam allowance built into this. She says in her instructions to trim it along those perimeter lines. Well, you do that and you go to put it into something like she puts it into this pillow. What's wrong with this pillow besides the fact that the fabric choices are not good for showing off this design?
Yeah, I know. That's pretty lousy.
Yeah. And if you notice, there's no points.
Yeah.
Because the points are buried in the seam allowance because she didn't leave a quarter inch all the way around. I wrote to her and I said, did you really mean for us to trim it right against the perimeter line? Because if you do that, when you sew it into whatever project you're making into, you're going to lose your points. So it's not going to look like a tulip anymore.
So it'll be pointless.
It'll just look like, yeah, it'll be pointless. It'll look just like this.
Yeah.
A blob. And her answer to that was, well, most of the people that come to her website are not quilters.
Yeah, well, what has that have anything to do with
it? So
it would make sense not for, because I noticed that when I first started, I did a quilt last year at Stephanie's retreat, and I noticed I was doing the same mistake. I was trimming the blocks too close to the edge, and then as I was doing it, I started to realize, I really needed to have a quarter inch.
Yeah, and if you look at here, she's done it in a tote bag. Well, great idea, but look, no points.
Yeah,
she's pointless on that. So that changes. Without those points, it changes the design.
Yeah, plus it doesn't make it as well, the color choices she has aren't very good. It makes it look like it's not very distinctive looking.
So but that's what she told me. Now she has some other designs here, but these designs are not. Like there's the tulip, but that's done all as embroidery.
Yeah, and there she does have sort of an edge on there where,
yeah, well, that's a tag.
Yeah,
and that's not, this is embroidery. This is not this is not what we just did. It's the same kind of design, but it's embroidery. She's got this quilt block, she calls it, right here. Okay, let me hold it on there. See if I click on that, will that bring me up? There it is. There. Okay, this is like I was talking about. Sometimes this is tricky when you're putting things together in triangles like that. Now this one is definitely, looks to me like is what we just did.
Yeah.
A different one, but you see, $19. She's pricey for these designs. Yeah. And then she's done it in a pillow here. Now, if you notice here, it looks like she did leave her points in.
Except for the one pillow looks like it's missing.
Yeah. And I now this table runner, is that a table or a placemat? Mm-hmm. She's showing different things. Well, what are these, condoms?
Yeah, I think they're tea.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, since it's called stash, I mean, I don't know. Anyways, I'm sure that you're right. It's tea. So yeah, and then she has these little charm sets kind of thing, but those are all embroidered. Those are not what we just did. So yeah, I liked her design for this, the tulip thing, but you just have to remember, leave a quarter inch all the way around on the outside when you trim it up. Okay, so I thought that was something a little different. whether or not you'll ever use it or you're even interested in that kind of thing, it doesn't matter. I thought it was kind of something else that I never thought of before, but doing foundation paper piecing in the hoop is a thing or could be a thing if more people would come up with designs. If like OASD or Designs by Juju or Creative Kiwi, any of those ones, if they started doing ones and the more complex types of blocks, I would be very interested in something like that. But anyways, time will tell. If I knew more about doing digitizing, I could create my own set, but I got other things I want to do. So don't ask me to design some. Okay. So just to summarize everything up here for next week, we've got Sewing with Stephen on Wednesday. We've got Stephen and Walter live on Sunday, 1 hour earlier because of Easter, 3 p.m. instead of 4 p.m. this coming week. Registration is still open for the Idiot Quilter Retreat, but it will close the middle of next week. So if you've been sitting on the fence, you got to make up your mind with it. I've still got places available. And as I said, it will be a completely politically free day. We are not even going to go there with any of that stuff. We're just there to quilt and have a good time and enjoy the guest speakers as well. Okay. Anything you want to add to any of this?
Nope.
You almost did good. Well, stick to making shirts. But whatever. Anyways, yeah. Okay, so we'll see everybody next week. Bye for now.
Bye for now.